In this video, we continue our series looking at cool micro brands to check out. Alright guys, so this is part 2 of our series, and really the whole goal of this is just to simply provide more awareness of certain brands that might be a little bit more obscure that you might not know about. But as always, please leave comments down below. If you've not seen part 1, I will link it in the description so you can check it out after this video. We're going to be looking at one watch per brand, but definitely would recommend checking out the entire catalog of each one of these brands if you are interested in them. Now first up, we have a more popular micro brand, and that is Dan Henry. So Dan Henry is a micro brand founded by the notable watch collector Dan Henry. And he really does have a world-class collection, probably one of the leading voices in vintage watches in the world. And really the whole purpose of his micro brand is to create pieces, styles, designs that really embody that vintage styling of watches from the 20th century. And the first watch that I saw, and I've actually done a hands-on review of the Dan Henry 1970. I've seen a lot of talk about the Dan Henry chronographs, these 1964s. However, I want to look at the first Dan Henry watch that I ever was able to get my hands on. The watch was the Dan Henry 1939. And the watch comes in with a price of $220, case size of 41 millimeters, thickness of 13.9 millimeters, have a Seiko Quartz 6S21 in this that has a sweeping seconds hand effect as well, water resistance of 50 meters, and has a sapphire coated mineral crystal. And I think Dan Henry does a good job at least presenting these unique designs for the most part from what you will see on the market nowadays at a more affordable price point. Now for our next micro brand, it's one that has a pretty popular following for those that are familiar with them, and that is Lorier. So I first heard about these watches by other YouTubers mentioning them, and I was always pretty impressed with just the overall aesthetic of them. I think these are some really solid looking divers. And I saw a video of the two founders, Lauren and Lorenzo, who founded the company. They're just a young, really wholesome couple from what I can see with an interview that I saw with Patrick Marlette. I can link to that video down below. He did a pretty good job talking to them and presenting just kind of the background, the story of the brand and what they aim to do. But let's look at their Neptune watch. So the Neptune comes in with a price of $399. We're looking at a case size of 39 millimeters. Lug to lug, we're at 48 millimeters. From a thickness standpoint, 12 millimeters, has a Seiko NH35A, water resistance of 200 meters, and has a plexiglass crystal. So I know there's probably gonna be some comments about that plexiglass crystal. I am not sure why they did it. I probably imagining just based on just the approach that they take, that they wanna maintain kind of that vintage styling. That could be my assumption. I'm imagining from what I'm seeing from them that that's probably the reason why they have that. But these are just really solid looking watches. As of right now, they're fulfilling pre-orders, and it seems like these watches sell out really quickly whenever they're back in stock. But a really interesting micro brand. I think they're doing a really good job in embodying that vintage style that I think so many people are craving right now. So in my last video, I mentioned how I always see fairer watches mentioned in my Facebook group. And another brand that I see quite often, I think a few people in the group own these watches, and that is Boulder. So Boulder is an outfitter brand based in Singapore and Malaysia. They have a small team where they produce watches and other additional outfitter goods. However, the watch we're gonna be looking at here is their Expedition watch. So these watches come in with a price of $589, case size of 41 millimeters, thickness of 14.5 millimeters, powered by an automatic Sellita S200 one movement, water resistance of 200 meters, and has a sapphire crystal. The watches are a bit thick with that 14.5 millimeters, but cool little brand, and I think if you're somebody that's into outdoorsy things, this could be an interesting little micro brand to look at if you are somebody that wants to go down that route. Now last year when I did my first video on the subject of micro brands, I mentioned a few different micro brands. I'll have to be honest, I was not as far invested into this wormhole that it is the micro brand sphere and space. But there was this one brand that I did mention, and that was Martinero. And we're gonna be looking at them again today. So Martinero is a small watch company that started back in 2014. My favorite line from them is the Ascent line. However, the majority of that line is actually sold out currently, so I wanted to offer up a different option to take a look at, and that is the Martinero Kerosene line. So these watches come in with a price of $595. You have two different options for case sizes, 38 millimeters and 42 millimeters. Thickness, we're looking at 10.8 millimeters, powered by an automatic Miyota 9015 movement. This particular one is a hacking movement. We're looking at water resistance of 50 meters and has a sapphire crystal on both the front and the back. All right, now for our next watch, we have a watch from Italy, from Venice, Italy. And I wish I knew about this brand when I was in Venice, Italy, because I would have definitely wanted to check out what they had to offer. And the brand is Meccaniche Veneziane. And the watch we're going to be looking at from the brand is the Retina Touring. The watch comes in with a price range of $600 to $800, case size of 40 millimeters. Movement, we're looking at an automatic caliber MV285, so that's an ETA-based movement, an ETA 2824, water resistance of 100 meters, and has a sapphire crystal. So the company is based in Venice, Italy, and they hand make all of their straps in Italy that come with their watches, but all of their watches are Swiss assembled and have that Swiss made stamp. They're all assembled in Basel, Switzerland. And overall, I think they're producing some pretty solid watches for the money. And I really like the aesthetic of them personally. All right, now for our next watch, we have a brand called Formex, and we're gonna be looking at their Essence line. And the interesting thing about this line is you have two different options in terms of the movements inside of it. You can get a standard ETA, 2824, or you can get a modified Solita movement that is cost certified from a Microbrand, which is kind of strange. I don't think I've ever seen it really underneath $1,000. So let's give a look at these things. So these watches come in with a price, if we're looking for that cost certified version, $986. You can find the basic ETA versions available for around $600. Case size of 43 millimeters, thickness of 10 millimeters, water resistance of 100 meters, and features a sapphire crystal. From here, you have a couple different dial variations that you can choose from. You also have an option with a leather strap or a metal bracelet. And I know the cases are a little bit large for my personal opinion, but overall, kind of interesting that there's a cost certified movement in one of these watches. All right, now for our last watch and brand on the list, we have Monta. And these were the most requested, I feel like, in the last video that I did in terms of mentioning them. But let's take a closer look at the brand. So the brand is based in St. Louis, Missouri. And what you can see from most of the offering of their watches is that you do have a good amount of customizable options when it comes to the bezel. You go for ceramic or steel options, as well as different dial colors. But let's look at the Ocean King line a little more specifically. At a price standpoint, we're looking at $1,925. Case size of 40.7 millimeters, case thickness of 11.9 millimeters, powered by an automatic SW300 movement. And all these movements from Monta are said to run between plus or minus 5 seconds a day. So they're definitely tuning up these movements before sending them out to you, which is kind of fun. Crystal, we're looking at a sapphire crystal. And overall, I think Monta, they produce some pretty solid looking watches. And it's always nice to see people in the United States trying to keep our horological roots intact. All right, guys, so thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, want me to continue this series, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit that bell icon. Big thanks to all of you guys that just do that. It's a big way to help out the channel, allowing us to grow within YouTube's algorithm. If you guys want to go ahead and buy a watch strap on my website, we have some awesome watch straps curated, and we're also gonna be getting some more very soon, which I'm very excited about, so definitely go over there. On top of that, if you wanna get an iconic piece for yourself, head over to Bob's Watches. Bob's Watch is one of the largest retailers for pre-owned watches in the world and a partner of the channel. And if you use the link in the description, any purchase supports the content that you're watching. So guys, thank you again so much for watching. Be well, and I will see you all very soon.